Ahoy! Today we're taking a look at the PTS changes that were done after the first wave. Because PTS actually is up again. I'm going to play some games later as well. And we are going to look at what was changed between the first wave and now the second wave. And there are a lot of changes here for PTS, like surprising amount. I was positively surprised, I will say. And a lot of changes that addressed a lot of the issues, some of which I brought up yesterday as well. So I'm very happy with this overall. And we're just going to jump right into it and go through it. So thanks to everyone who participated in our Season 8 PTS. We've had some of the largest turnout for PTS we have ever had, and it was amazing to see everyone play on the new Season 8 map and try out all the new items and balance. Our goal with this set of balance adjustments is to look at outliers that have a high risk of dictating the meta and give them softer adjustments before they see live play in the coming weeks. We don't want to overreact before players have had the chance to develop their Season 8 strategies over a longer period of time, which I think is a very good approach. Items like Sentinel's Embrace and Animosity are probably a standout for strong items that are not receiving any adjustment. We'll get to those items in the future, and there will be complaints about them, I'm sure. So these items, while strong, should feel that way as they're largely limited to support. This gives them a strong role and exciting role to play into the late game. To pick these up on non-support roles, players must forego a starter at the beginning of the game or go one that may not help them, and in the case of Animosity, lower their XP gain. So we'll be keeping a close eye on this. If this drawback is not as strong as we believe it is, it's possible that items like these could begin to dictate the meta in unhealthy ways, and we'll make adjustments to address this. So honestly, these items are already, like Sentinel's Embrace is just crazy good in general, but it's just a support item. It's not crazy good on everyone. And Animosity is an awkward outlier, I think, in many ways that we'll look into in the future. But I do understand why they don't want to nerf it yet compared to many of the others here that are just generally good on the guards that are meant to use them primarily. So the first one of those is Death Toll. I talked about this a lot. I talked about this yesterday. Death Toll was a standout during PTS cycle. The safety provider was simply too high. The cost increase paired with a nerf to safety should bring it more in line with the more aggressive or farm-oriented choices. So the cost here is increased by 50 gold to 750. Keep in mind that all the starters have different prices now, so it's not necessarily like something that makes it way worse than other starters or something. They just all fluctuate in price depending on how strong they are considered and how many pots you can get along with them is basically what changes. And the health restore is decreased from 1% of your maximum health to 0.75% of your maximum health. Interestingly enough, it doesn't say anything about structure healing, so that seems to stay the same unless it was just considered a bug. We'll see if it comes up later. I don't think so. I've read through these and I don't think that showed up, so that might stay. And then Death Embrace, the strongest upgrade, was also nerfed here, with the physical power of the item being decreased from 80 to 65 and the magical power decreased from 140 to 110. Honestly, still quite a lot of magical power, especially, I feel. And it's still not a bad item for physical either, but obviously it has to have a bit more of a downside. And I do think that it will still hold its place. I do think that you can still run this as your only sustain item because the power hasn't really changed, and then you do like a transcendence focus build. So this will definitely have a niche somewhere. It's just going to be a little bit different from how it was before. Then, and I could imagine seeing further nerfs in the future as well. Like they said, they do just soft nerfs now to see how the items go with that, and then potentially more later. Because it's something that is currently used both in solo and in ADC as well, and technically even in jungle, but that's not fast enough usually. And then we have Mannequin Scepter. So this one was also a bit too good in places where it was not meant to be. So hunters and solo laners used this quite well, and that's not what they wanted. So they're decreasing the damage over time from 20 physical damage to 16 physical damage over 2 seconds, which obviously also means this makes a difference for aggression against other guards. Along with that, they increase the jungle bonus damage from 2.5 times to 3 times. So for jungles, I think this is effectively even a slight increase. I'd have to do the numbers, but I think it should actually work out well enough for jungles anyways. So that really it's just worse for laners and more of a jungler item. I imagine it would still be decent in lane at least, but yeah, I think there will just be other items that compete better. And then we have Eye of the Jungle. Eye of the Jungle, probably the the one that the pros looked at most, the people that looked at the numbers, that looked at the stats as well. Those were the people that were going for Eye of the Jungle, because Eye of the Jungle's passive itself is very lackluster compared to the others, in my opinion. And what really stands out were the base stats, the base power, the base attack speed. And that was a problem, especially for attack speed junglers, but also others that just cleared very quickly with this. So the attack speed here is decreased from 20% to 15%. Again, one that I could imagine being nerfed further in the future. Then we have Protector of the Jungle, one of the upgrades. This gets an adjustment to the passive's effectiveness. So the passive bonus is decreased from 15% to 12%. I'm assuming this is both the damage and defense increase that you get while in the jungle. So this will still be good, and it still has crazy base stats and everything, just toned down a little bit here for the jungle specifically. Obviously, outside of the jungle, it doesn't do all that much, so yeah, go figure. And then there's the Bumbus Dagger, which is the staple starter item still. That's what you would see on most junglers being used, because it's basically Bumbus Mask slash Assassin's Blessing. And yeah, this is a safe choice, as they say here. But this item struggled to be effective since you had options like starting with tier 2 boots. No, like even with the option to start with tier 2 boots. So they increased the basic attack damage from 15 to 20 true damage on this. This is against jungle camp specifically. The problem with this item really is that compared to the other jungle items, which allow for a very fast clear, it clears a fair bit slower, and it doesn't come with any early aggression stats against other guards. So, like, if the enemy jungler goes Eye of the Jungle and goes for boxing you, or goes Manic and goes for boxing you, then Bumbus kind of falls behind. And that should fix this a little bit, so we're going to see how it works out now. It still has, like, a fantastic upgrade as well, so this might just be what it needs. It seems like the upgrade's not fixed yet. It doesn't seem the fix is in yet. I don't know. It's not noted here. I'm assuming some of the changes that they want to do haven't gone through yet, because not everything is as easy to do. Alternate Timeline has had a lot of hype surrounding it. A potent effect, I would say, with a massive cooldown, definitely gets people talking. It's a minor adjustment to better focus its stats, where we continue to keep an eye on this effect. So this no longer provides plus 15 MP5, which is surprising to me. I honestly didn't see the alternate timeline as that much of a problem, at least not on traditional mages. There are some strategies where it can be very interesting, very useful, but generally speaking, especially with the long cooldown that it has, unless you do the reselling thing where you sell it and buy it again to reset the cooldown, I don't find it that problematic. I'm surprised they're taking stats away from it. But I mean, it's just defining more what it is, I suppose, and then maybe in the future they will look at the passive and they can say, well, the item doesn't offer much else because it doesn't even offer the MP5 anymore. So maybe that's the logic behind it. Ornate Arrow, Texel specifies that it provides physical critical strike chance. That's what I talked about yesterday. So it doesn't actually work on magical characters at all. It seems like they can still build it for now. Yeah, why you would want to do that is another question. Naja, somebody I haven't talked about yesterday, but really also worth mentioning. He has insane amount of heals at the moment, and his Flaming Spear has the physical power scaling decreased from the heal, decreased from 10% per stack to 5% per stack, which is still going to be solid, but it was just insane beforehand if you got full stacks. So I don't quite know how to feel about this. Like, the problem is that Naja is way easier to counter now. So I've almost felt like this was somewhat, like, I wouldn't say okay, it was definitely too much, but somewhat not as much of an issue as it would seem, because there are other things about him that are a lot weaker. We will see. We will see if this is the right value here. It might very well be. It might very well be that 5% is exactly the level that we need. It might actually end up with him being punished too much. We'll find out. It was ridiculous scaling, 100%, because you could heal up so much so quickly. It's more about his in-combat capabilities right now that I'm concerned about. And I'm not quite sure how that will play out or what can be done about that. But we'll have to wait until we can see him on live and how he performs there. So, Which is interesting here as well, because they say he feels more successful as an assassin with higher scaling on the sash combined with a power level scaling, but that kind of leaves out the part where he doesn't crit anymore and everything, or he doesn't crit on his ability, it's 3, which makes a huge difference for him as well. Danzaburo gets some fixes with the looping sound effects for the ultimate rocket not playing for the entire duration, and the volume on the ultimate rocket has also been increased, a big complaint by many people, so now you should hopefully really know when Danzaburo uses his ultimate. Janos is one of the problems that I brought up yesterday. Portal, changes that were planned for this ability for 8.1 are being reverted and will not go live on 8.1. This is due to the issues it had when Janos used the ability on himself. We do plan on still going forward with this change in future updates, but with specific programming to only change the functionality of the falling state at the end of the ability. So this is kind of what I expected, but also a little bit different. I thought they would just make it so that for Janos it is different from using it on an enemy. It seems that they want to do something where it's just a specific time frame in the ability where it starts proccing differently. But this will still be fine for Janos because you will still be able to juke a lot of things this way if you portal it at the right moment, because you get the initial immunity. And he also got his other buffs, so I think overall he will do better. So good change here, and hopefully they can sort that out completely. Jormungandr's basic attacks will not trigger any item effects, including all starter items and their upgrades. Previously, he was allowed to trigger blessings only because the effects were limited, but the 8.1 starters create clear break cases. Not surprising at all. This just means that he can't use Death Toll and Mannequin Scepter. That was clearly broken, that was clearly not intended, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this was not meant to be in the game, okay? This was not balanced. And I don't know why anyone would think that this would be balanced. And I also don't know why anyone would think that just because this is not in the game, Jormungandr has no other options. There are mage starters that he can use. There are still other solo starters that he can use. There are technically even support starters that he can use if you want to play support. And there are other things that Jormungandr can do now, much better than in the old map. So if you really think that Jormungandr is now suddenly terrible without having played him on the new map, without knowing anything beyond the fact that he can't use a broken effect anymore, I don't know what to tell you. There are very interesting things for Jormungandr specifically, and we will get into that, okay? We'll get into that. Don't worry, this doesn't kill off the god or something like that. He'll do things. He'll be fine. I'm pretty sure. I can't promise this, of course, but I'm pretty sure he will at least be average on the new map, if not better. We'll see, but that's my prediction on based on what I've seen so far. Okay, moving on. We have a bunch of bug fixes as well, which are partially very important. So some text on starters has been updated. More importantly, the Bumbus hammer fixed an issue where toggle or multiply abilities could trigger this item. This should behave similar to Hydra's Lament and Polynomicon when it comes to what abilities can proc this effect. So this was, for example, apparently the case for Pele's 3. So that won't be happening anymore. You can't just cancel it constantly and get Bumbus Hammer's effect from it. But that doesn't really matter when some gods can immediately reset it all the time anyway. So yeah. Some things are not working quite as intended with it. So Nemesis Shield and Hera Shield will trigger this after the shield fades and not when you activate it. And Shankui's and Upwar's ultimate don't proc it immediately as well, only after it finishes. Or no, don't proc it at all. So these will be fixed in 8.2, but without, with the exception of Nemesis, these are really outlier cases for that item anyways. Starter items fix an issue where people could buy additional starter items. Mannequin's Mace fix an issue where jungle bosses could be immune to a portion of this item's damage. I didn't even know that, interesting. Mannequin Scepter fix an issue where this item did higher damage to jungle monsters than listed. Diamond Arrow fixed an issue where this item wasn't stacking. Hunter's Cowl fixed an issue where this item's aura could stack multiple times. Leather Cowl fixed an issue where this item's aura could stack multiple times. Death Toll fixed an issue with Jormungandr, basically just proccing where it wasn't meant to be. And Aura Star item fixed an issue so auras could remain if these items were sold. So it's kind of interesting that the Bumbus Dagger is not mentioned here. But I guess, again, they're still working on that. Then there are map fixes as well. So some minions were not providing gold when attacked by towers, like none at all. Some tower effects were fixed. Some invade, the invade debuff on the doors was fixed. I'm assuming the door opening mechanic along with that, where you wouldn't necessarily get the invader's curse or the door invader's curse when you jumped on the enemy's base door opening mechanism. What a word. So that's solved now. Fire Giant gets some fix for collision, and fire minions didn't have the visual effect sometimes. I was wondering about that actually. And some other collision issues with invisible walls and stuff were fixed. But more importantly, pets can now travel. Pets can now go through doors. They can open doors. This is specifically important for Changa and Baba Yaga, because Changa's rabbit would get stuck in base when buying things, and other pets cannot do that because it's more about the ones that need to go far distances and not the ones that you use in combat. So outside of that, we also have some UI fixes, like role trading, jungle guides art, which I guess that there was part of what didn't work. I'm not sure if it works fully now. Then yeah, the guides that didn't work yet. I don't know if they work now. I'd like to see if they work. Cooldown to the audio to help with tip power, taps, blah blah blah. It's not just whatever. Some art being fixed and some minimap icons being fixed. Okay, yeah. But this one here, lots of additional environment art, decorating and props, decoration and props have been added throughout the map. So I'm really curious to see what that is. Totem of Ku and Tower radius should no longer be visible on the side, on the back side of the walls. Floor brightness and height of Fire Giant and Pyromancer areas. It was a bit dark, so I can see why. Decreased the density of jungle fog as well as adjusted the distance effect. This one is interesting because it was very foggy, so I guess they didn't like that. And some changes to better highlight the Titan leash radius of the Chaos base. And then there's also some additional clarity in messaging. The first one here, attack speed. This is actually a fix as well. So attack speed, item slows, and attack speed slows, and item attack speed slows and item slows are strongest wins. And that was something that was the case for Frostborn Hammer and Witchblade. So you can like stack them in every regard. And they're doing this with the new starters as well now, which I was trying to abuse a little bit. I wanted to see how far that goes. That won't work anymore, it seems. So you can only really have one of these effects active at the time, and that's the strongest one. The alternate timeline, they know that you can currently sell it and rebuy it and reset the cooldown. This is technically how other items work, but given how strong alternate timeline is, they are considering like different rules for this. So they plan to fix this in 8.2. There are also like some smaller issues where custom builds and auto builds will not upgrade new starters for you automatically. The spectator needs a version of smaller walls because the walls are much higher and less trees and everything. So that's going to be a visual thing for the spectator specifically. The rest, the additional balance on starter items is obviously being worked on. And the Scorpion's health is not scaling properly. And there's some stuff about the viewer pass as well, which is going to be a bit different, it seems. So I'm going to read through this actually. We're actively working to get the viewer pass back up before 8.1 and throughout 8.1. Hopefully this will be active again next week. It will be using the new Twitch drop system and be a little unique to the strange intermediate time before things get set up more permanently in 8.2. The viewer point 75k reset will not happen until 8.2 when everything is sorted out. All of 8.1 will have faster 75k skin rotations weekly. At 8.2 launch, the Agni skin bundle will leave the store. A new bundle will be introduced that you'll need to buy for the season 8 point boosts. Valkyrie's Bright Thor will leave the store and be replaced with a new skin. Dunkfather will leave the store and be replaced with a new 200k skin. We return to the normal pace on 75k skin rotations, but new skins will be featured and other new shop changes to be shown on the 8.2 update notes. Throughout Season 8, Artemis and Rachel will remain and eventually be replaced by the new 200k skins. So if you haven't gotten those yet and you want to get them later in the next season, you can still do that until they get replaced. So the only one that's going immediately is Dunkfather Odin, as well as Valkyrie's Bride Thor. So a lot of things here, a lot of changes, a lot of smaller things as well. Overall, again, I think very good changes to the guards especially. I really like what they've done there. I'm very happy with that. And yeah, I hope that they will keep going in that direction in the upcoming season. And I think we would see a lot of balance relatively quickly through that, which I'm very happy with. So I have no complaints. I know there are some more things that need fixing, but again, I think some of them are just not as easy to fix and are probably still being worked on. And other than that, I'm going to jump on PTS now. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please sub button and ring the bell. And feel free to check out my Patreon. Other than that, I hope to see you on the next one soon. ZiSotto, out.